Okay, picture this. It's Monday morning. You're a C-suite exec, maybe a division head, and you've just signed off on a massive budget for a new AI platform. We're talking millions.
The best-in-class stuff.
The absolute best. You did the town halls, you have the shiny slide decks, all the emails promising a new era of productivity. Fast forward, say, 90 days. You log into the admin dashboard, expecting to see that hockey stick graph going straight up, and what do you see?
Let me guess. A flat line.
Worse, crickets.
Jesus, so...
Or, and this is maybe even more frustrating, you walk past a desk and you see a high-paid analyst manually typing data into a spreadsheet, just completely ignoring the expensive tool you just bought them.
The classic expensive reality check. It's the nightmare scenario, really. You've built them the Ferrari, you've tossed them the keys.
And they've decided to walk to work instead. That is exactly what we're digging into today, because this frustration, it is palpable in boardrooms right now. Why does deployment so rarely equal adoption?
That's the core tension. And the source material we're looking at today, specifically the methodology from winningteamai.com-argues, this isn't a tech problem at all. It's a behavioral science problem.
So we're not debugging code today, we're debugging the user.
Precisely. And we're going to unpack their 5-step strategy to fix it.
Yeah.
But it's all grounded in this really fascinating academic framework called the Technology Adoption Model, or TAM for short.
TAM. Okay, I've heard this thrown around, but it always feels a bit academic. Is it actually practical for a modern, chaotic AI rollout?
Oh, it's more than practical. It's predictive. It was developed by Dr. Fred Davis way back in the 80s, but it's having a huge resurgence now because the beauty of it is that it just cuts through all the noise.
How so?
It basically argues that when any person, an intern, a VP, anyone is faced with new tech, their decision to actually use it boils down to just 2 core perceptions.
Just 2? That seems a little too simple given how complex these AI tools are. I mean, we're not talking about a new stapler.
It sounds simple, but think about your own behavior. The first pillar is perceived usefulness. The user asks a very, very selfish question. Will this thing actually help me do my job better?
Okay, but useful is subjective, right? To me, an analytics dashboard is incredibly useful. To my team, it might just look like more work.
That is the key distinction. It's not about whether the software is powerful in theory. It's about whether the user believes it will save them time, reduce their stress, or, make them look good. If the answer is a vague maybe, adoption stalls immediately.
So that's the classic what's in it for me factor.
Okay.
What's the second pillar?
Perceived ease of use. This is the friction test. So even if a tool is unbelievably useful, let's say it could predict the stock market perfectly. If it feels confusing or intimidating or just hard,
People won't use it.
they just won't. The cognitive load is too high and the brain rejects it. So the Winning Team AI methodology basically says that every single failed rollout is a failure of one, or usually both, of these pillars.
A bottleneck in the user's mind.
Exactly. But here's where it gets really interesting with AI. The source material highlights that AI acts as an amplifier for these risks. It triggers these psychological barriers that say, Microsoft Excel never did.
You mean the fear factor, the whole robots are coming for my job thing?
That's the loud one, yeah. Fear of replacement. But there are subtler, almost more dangerous fears, like the fear of exposure.
Exposure of what?
Oh, incompetence. There's this deep-seated fear that if I use this AI, it might reveal that I've been inefficient for years. Or if I ask the AI a dumb question, will my boss see that I didn't already know the answer?
Wow, that's a powerful nuance. So you've got a tool that's technically useful, but culturally it feels dangerous to the employee.
And that just tanks the perceived ease of use score. It's not just about the interface being clunky, it's about the emotional friction.
So we got the diagnosis. The organization is rejecting the transplant because of a breakdown in usefulness and ease of use, amplified by these deep fears. Okay, let's talk about the cure. You mentioned a 5-step strategy. Where do we start?
We have to start by fixing perceived usefulness. The source material calls this bridging the translation gap.
The translation gap. What are we translating?
We're translating between what the technology can do and what the user needs to get done. See, most companies, they roll out AI, and the email from the CEO lists a bunch of features, right? Look, it generates text. It analyzes data.
Right. They're selling the specs. Look at the horsepower on this engine.
But the average employee doesn't care about horsepower. They care about getting home for dinner on time. So step 1 is to translate AI into role-based value. You have to pitch the exact same tool differently to every single person.
Okay, give me a concrete example. How do you pitch the same tool to a CEO versus, say, a middle manager?
Right. So for an executive, you don't talk about generative text. You talk about decision velocity and risk reduction.
You speak the language of the bottom line. This helps you make safer decisions faster.
Exactly. But if you take that same pitch to a manager, it just falls flat. Their pain points are planning, forecasting, team communication. So you position the AI as an operational unblocker. It drafts the project updates, it summarizes the meetings.
So they can focus on actual strategy.
Right. And then for the ground level employee, the one who's maybe a little terrified of being replaced,
If you tell them it increases velocity, they just hear, work harder.
this is the most critical translation. For them, you position the AI as task relief. You frame it as, this tool is not here to do your job. It's here to do the parts of your job that you hate. The data entry, the summarizing, the tedious formatting.
Ah, that's a huge psychological shift. You're changing the narrative from competitor to assistant.
And suddenly, perceived usefulness just skyrockets because you're not offering them AI, you're offering them time. You're solving a problem they actually have.
Okay, so we've sold them on the value. They want to use it. Now we hit that second pillar, ease of use. And I feel like this is where Gen AI has a really unique issue. I call it the blank screen problem.
It is the biggest hurdle in the industry right now. You open up one of these tools, and it's just a blinking cursor. For a power user, that's freedom. For a normal corporate user, that's terrifying.
It feels like homework. Figure out how to prompt me. And nobody wants more homework.
And people freeze. They don't know the syntax, they don't know what's possible. So step 2 in the strategy is to remove that complexity through guided workflows.
Guided workflows, is that just a fancy term for templates?
It's more than that, it's about structural design. Stop giving people open-ended tools and start giving them buttons. Imagine a dashboard where instead of a prompt box, you have a button that just says draft client update.
So it's like multiple choice. I click the button, maybe fill in a couple of fields, and the AI does the rest.
You've got it. You turn an open-ended creative task into a standard operating procedure. The user gets the result, the draft, the analysis, without ever having to learn prompt engineering.
You're lowering the barrier to entry by hiding the AI behind a simple UI.
You're making the ease of use so high that it becomes harder not to use it. You're giving them the answer, not the tool to find the answer.
That leads perfectly into step 3 then, because making something easy doesn't mean people will keep doing it. I have plenty of easy apps on my phone I haven't opened in months. How do you make it stick?
Right, that's the jump from adoption to habit. And there's a golden rule in TAM that Winning Team AI really leans on. Habit beats training.
Habit beats training. That's a bold statement given how much companies spend on training webinars.
And let's be honest, it's fatal. The AI needs to be ubiquitous. It should be a sidebar in Outlook. It should be a bot that sits in the Zoom call. When the AI is just there, offering to help in the workflow they're already in, using it becomes the path of least resistance.
So curiosity turns into routine simply because it's unavoidable.
In a good way, yeah.
Yeah.
You lower the activation energy. If I'm in a meeting and the AI pops up and says, want me to summarize the action items? I'm going to click yes. I didn't have to go use AI. I just finished my meeting.
That's a huge distinction. It stops being a destination and starts being a utility, like flipping a light switch.
Exactly.
But we still have that elephant in the room, the fear. Even if it's easy and useful, if I'm afraid I'm going to leak data or break compliance or just look stupid, I am not touching it.
And that brings us to step 4, creating psychological safety. This is, I would argue, the most important leadership challenge of the AI era. You have to establish the safe-to-use boundary.
Is that about technical guardrails or is it about cultural permission?
It's both, but the cultural side is the one that usually gets ignored. Employees need to know explicitly, you cannot break this.
Bumper lanes. You need to know you can't throw a gutter ball.
Yes. But even deeper, you have to address the spy versus partner dynamic. If I think the AI is monitoring my keystrokes to tell my boss how inefficient I am, I will sabotage it. I will find a way around it.
Shadow IT. I'll just
Yeah.
do it on my personal phone where you can't see me.
Right. But if the AI is positioned as my private assistant, where my drafts and my queries are private to me, then I feel safe to experiment. Leadership needs to communicate that the AI is an assistant, not an evaluator.
That messaging seems tricky. We're watching the data, but we're not watching you.
It requires trust, but without it, you just get compliance, not real adoption. People will do the bare minimum, but they won't really leverage the tool's power. They have to know using it won't expose their own lack of knowledge.
I see. So if I ask the AI, explain what this acronym means, I need to know my boss isn't getting a report that says, host speaker doesn't know what ROI means.
Exactly. If that fear exists, The usefulness of the tool drops to zero because the personal risk is too high.
Okay, so we've translated the value, we've created guided workflows, embedded it in habits, and built safety. Now, putting my executive hat back on, I've spent the millions, I've done the culture work. How do I know if any of this is actually working?
That's step 5, measuring reality. And this is where most dashboards lie to you.
Because companies just look at license utilization, right? We bought 5,000 seats, 4,000 people logged in this month. Success.
It's a total vanity metric. Logging in is not working. It's like buying a gym membership and walking through the door. That doesn't mean you lifted any weights.
Guilty. I think I have a few subscriptions just like that, so what should we be measuring instead?
You have to track behavioral adoption. Look at something called workflow penetration.
That sounds intense. What does that actually mean on the ground?
It means you look at the output. Of the, say, 500 reports this department generated this week, how many were assisted by AI? Are people using that draft client update button, or are they still typing it all out manually?
We're looking for the digital fingerprints on the actual work product.
Exactly, because that tells you the truth. If you see that 90% of your team is using the meeting summarizer, but 0% are using the data analyst tool, you have a specific diagnosis.
Right. You can pinpoint the failure. Maybe that data analyst tool isn't useful enough, or maybe it's just too hard to use.
And then you can intervene. You stop managing the contract and you start managing the behavior. You can go to that team and ask, hey, what's up with the data analyst tool? Is it confusing? Is it giving you bad data?
Instead of just yelling, use the tool we paid for.
Right. It changes the conversation from compliance to enablement.
It really does all circle back to the beginning. This is entirely a behavioral challenge.
It is. We treat AI like a hardware upgrade. You plug it in and it should just work, but it's actually a culture upgrade.
So to recap this for our listener who's maybe staring at that silent dashboard right now, deployment failed because it didn't pass the TAM test. Perceived usefulness and perceived ease of use.
And the fix wasn't better code. The fix was psychological.
You translate the tech into role-based value. You replace the blank screen with guided workflows. You embed the tools into existing habits so it's frictionless.
You build psychological safety so people aren't afraid. And you measure the real behavior, not just the purchase order.
And if you do all that, where does it leave an organization?
It moves you from technology that's just impressive, which is cool but ultimately useless, to technology that is indispensable.
Indispensable. That's the goal. You want it so integrated that if you took it away, people would actually complain.
That is the true sign of adoption. When your team says, how did we ever do our jobs without this?
It reminds me of the smartphone. Nobody thought they needed the internet in their pocket, and now life is impossible without it.
That's a perfect analogy. That's a successful adoption curve. And what this methodology shows us is that you can actually engineer that curve. You don't have to just cross your fingers and hope people get it.
It's not magic, it's a method.
It is. And I think the source material leaves us with one last provocative thought that really summarizes this whole thing.
Let's hear it.
Organizations rarely fail at AI because the tech is weak. I mean, the tech today is incredible. They fail because adoption was never designed intentionally. They treated it like a side effect of a purchase.
We bought it, therefore they will use it.
Exactly. But adoption is a strategy. It has to be designed, managed, and nurtured just like the software itself.
That is such a powerful takeaway. We spend years designing the systems and maybe minutes designing the habits of the people who are supposed to use them.
And in the end, the system only lives in the mind of the user. If they reject it, it doesn't matter how much you paid. It doesn't exist.
Well, there you have it. If you're sitting on a piece of tech that nobody's using, maybe stop looking at the server logs and start looking at the psychology.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
This was a fascinating deep dive. Thank you so much for walking us through it.
My pleasure.
And for everyone listening, good luck with your own adoption curves. We'll see you in the next deep dive.